because it took me another 5 years to be like, it's okay that you don't want to do this thing that everyone else is doing.
Welcome to the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast. Here, you will raise your awareness to what is, and most importantly, what isn't working for you in all areas of your life, to identify your unique abilities and superpowers, to take purposeful action. We all get stuck, and now you can unstuck yourself with me every week. Now let's get unstuck, peeps. Hey peeps, welcome back. So today I have a candid conversation with a good, dope colleague of mine, Kelly George. Kelly George is a native Brooklynite, international public speaker, project management professional, and emotional wellness coach. Kelly speaks loud and proud about mental health, psychological safety, healing justice, and neurodiversity. Kelly's passion for mental health, emotional intelligence, and corporate wellness education began in 2016 after having had her own personal challenges as a Black, Latinx, queer, bipolar, neurodivergent. Lived experience is a great teacher, Kelly says. Today, Kelly's mission is to destigmatize neurodiversity in corporate work ecosystems. Real Resilience provides clients the tools to create a unique definition of resilience and supports the alignment of the resilience mindset with their specific organizational goals. There are so many books that she shared with me, and she dropped them during our conversation, which I will actually add to this episode. So please dive into those books and also get into this dope-ass conversation with Kelly and I. Enjoy. All right, peeps. This is something new. Not really new. It's a candid conversation with the lovely Kelly George. Did I say it correctly?
You did.
Yay! Now, this is different from my normal interview episode because Kelly and I got to give the backstory. Kelly and I were divinely connected through Coaching for Everyone. Everyone knows, if you've been listening to the podcast, the nonprofit organization that is geared towards certifying people of color in the BIPOC community. And it took me a while, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know what that meant until a couple of years ago. So if you're the same way, it's okay. We're good. Coaching for Everyone highlights that, and they connect us to these cohorts, and our cohort name is what, Kelly?
NRG. Yeah, I love it. It was the best name ever.
Super fitting and dope as fuck. And Kelly and I are just two of the dopest of the group, but there's like 20. Do you know how many total there are of us?
I feel like it was like, I don't know, 20 plus.
It is 20 plus. That is a great answer. So it was like 20 plus of us in this cohort. And I remember Kelly being in our class because we were training virtually through the iPad coaching program. And she was so bubbly. She was so inquisitive. She was so excited. And it was like, yes, yes. Which leads us to this candid conversation because she emailed me this article. Bates Orthodontics pride themselves in offering a welcoming and friendly environment with top-of-the-line orthodontic work. Bates Orthodontics in Chesterfield, Virginia is your one-stop shop for child and adult orthodontics. As a Diamond Invisalign provider, Dr. Bates treats more patients with Invisalign than any other orthodontist in Chesterfield. They provide excellent quality and professional care while bringing your best smile to life. Looking for an orthodontist in Chesterfield, Virginia? Stop searching nearest orthodontist to me and contact Bates Orthodontics today. They will make sure you get professional orthodontic treatment you need in a welcoming and fun environment. Book your appointment today by calling 804-207-8219 or visit batesorthodontics.com. So first of all, it's written by, do you know how to pronounce her last name? I'm gonna say Dr. Carey.
Yeah.
Dr. Carey.
Go with that. Yeah.
And I will link the article in today's show notes, but it says why white self-help gurus and Black women pain don't mix. And I guess she has a blog and it's A Retired Hot Girl. Is that her blog?
Wait, no, wait. I think it's called, so the article, it's on my LinkedIn and it's called, hold on.
I really think she has, that's her blog. Because it said retired hot girl. Y'all know I don't even
That's
say
her
those
blog.
words.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
my tongue is like hot girl. Kelly, share with us what sparked you to share this article with me.
Okay, absolutely. So, yeah. So what sparked me to share this article? Basically, I was doing a live with, I have a really awesome group of Black women, and we're like a little entrepreneur, like group. We come together. It's called Black Mental Health Wellness. Basically, we were having this conversation about psychological safety. And psychological safety is essentially being able to allow teams or folks who are working together to inhabit their best selves. But in order to inhabit their best selves and put their best work forward, it's necessary that they feel comfortable asking questions. They feel comfortable sharing their weaknesses. And being vulnerable, right? So those are really the three pieces of what cultivates a psychologically safe space. So we were talking about that with this group, and we were kind of like, so I brought up that Amy Edmondson is the person who came up with psychological safety, and she's a Harvard professor. And I remember reading the article about psychological safety. I was like, this is great. Every workplace needs this. That was like last year when I read this article. I was back and forth, and I came upon thinking, like, working with clients and folks being like, you know what, like, I don't actually think my workplace is psychologically safe. And honestly, I don't feel comfortable as a Black person being completely vulnerable, because I actually just saw someone, speak up and speak their mind in a psychologically safe deemed space, and they're no longer here. So, it was really just something sparked by a number of conversations that were coming in. One I was having with my mental health sisterhood, one I was having with coaching clients, and then also just me going back and reading the article and thinking, like, I don't know if we can even have psychologically safe spaces. Maybe we can have psychologically safer spaces, right? But we can't guarantee psychological safety, right? And so that is what I was coming to a year after reading about psychological safety and Amy Edmondson's article. And then what I brought up, I was like, how do we navigate this as people of color in workspaces when they're vulnerable? I don't know how else to say this, but like, if we're vulnerable and we're called out for being vulnerable, or in some way there's a hidden tax of being vulnerable, how will we know if our employer is speaking to us or reprimanding us on something that we were vulnerable about, or that was actually a performance issue? Like these types of things going into the conversation of thinking about psychological safety in the workplace, especially for BIPOC folks. So I'll pause there and let you jump in, Crystal, because I've been talking for a minute.
No, it sparked my awareness because I haven't heard of psychological safety, and the way you explained it makes so much sense. Of we can't guarantee it, but we can increase the safety of it by having conversations like this of what does that mean? What does that look like? And I too can speak to people speaking up. And because I worked in administration before I left corporate in 2019, I recall certain people speaking up. And then my boss and her boss and myself would have a meeting, or we would get lunch, and they would talk about that person. And I remember being like, oh shit, is this what happens? Like someone brings up a very valid point, and my perception was, Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, we should probably change it. We could probably actually look into that more because I came from a place of working collaborative. Like I'm not in the weeds. I'm not taking x-rays. I'm not, making sure the patients are safe hands-on anymore. I'm no longer doing that. We have a team that does that. So when they need resources, how can we give it to them so that that portion of their expectations are met? But the people I work with, their approach was not that. They're complaining. They're always complaining. They're never happy. And I remember one department in particular who was very understaffed, who was hard working like crazy, and they know who they are. They were the CT department. I told them that all the time. They were so dangerously understaffed. And I spoke up continuously, like, we have to hire new people. We have to. We had meetings upon meetings. And even my boss was like, Crystal, you need to stop. You need to stop saying we need more staff. Because if you go to my boss, he's going to think you don't know what's going on. Basically, she's threatening me to say, he's going to think you're stupid. He's going to think you're incompetent. And I literally told her, I don't care what he thinks. If we have more people in this department, that's all we need. Like, it didn't make any sense to me of that's your threat of he's going to think you're stupid. You need to chill. Because I know what I know, and I know they need help. I can see they need help. We have other departments calling us constantly. My patient has been waiting hours to get their exam. That is a safety issue. It's so messed up. So messed up.
Yeah, I mean, your recall on an incident while being in the corporate workspace, makes a lot of sense because this is really where it's kind of stemming from, right? Like, if we aren't emboldened to be brave and, there's a confidentiality or some sort of to make sure that because of being brave, we're not penalized.
Yes.
Because we're speaking our mind, we're not penalized until there's like that checks and balances. We can't just go out there and be like, we're making a psychologically safe space and everyone should just come be vulnerable and like tell us the things you never told the world. And like,
yeah,
this is how we're building community and collaboration at this company, right? But what happens when someone says something that no one wants to hear? And then there are repercussions that no one even knew existed.
Correct. What would that look like to increase the safety of the workplace? Since you spoke about it a little bit earlier, I think it's before we started recording, about you being a resilience coach and basically promoting workplace wellness. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for asking. So yeah, let me tell the short version of the story. My why did I get into coaching? And why is it my, like, by far the best career I've ever chose to like move in, right? And yes, of course, Crystal, you feel the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn native. All right, I'm a native, y'all. Okay, I just had to clarify
Get that right.
We gotta be clear about that. I'm gonna give some thanks to Lenape land. It's on Lenape land, just a land acknowledgement. And so for me, my background, my family, I'm a first generation immigrant, or like my family were first generation. Well, no, I'm the first generation. They immigrated to New York from Panama and Trinidad, right? So Caribbean blood is running all through my veins. I was also the first to complete college between my parents, right? A 4-year degree. Essentially, my entire life, my dad's like, you're going to be a lawyer. That's what you're going to do. You're just so smart. You're going to be a lawyer. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. School and education were really important. My mom's like, I don't care what you do. You just don't slip on those grades. Education's your #1 ticket out. And when they say out, I don't know if they mean out in terms of upward mobility class-wise, which is what I imagine. And yeah, because we grew up modestly, although I never felt like I was lacking for anything, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, all through my my high school years, I was very focused. I knew I had to go to a 4-year college. I wanted to go to a private institution. And I was like, I'm going to the best of the best, or I'm not going to college. I was really arrogant about it. um, and so, yeah, so I got into Middlebury College in Vermont. And everyone who knows me will be like, so you're going where? And I'm like, yeah, my grandma would be like, oh, it's behind God's back. Where are you going?
What does that mean?
It means it's not within God's sight. It's too far away. I don't know. I think God's supposed to be omnipotent
Present.
or present, but if anything was too far away, my grandma would say it was behind God's back.
I love that.
All that to say, I went to Middlebury, and it was the first time that I even really came into understanding racial contexts, right? Because in New York, I've met everybody in my book.
I can't say the word either. Ethnically. I love that we both. Yay.
And I was, in New York, I'm like, yeah, I'm from Panama, I'm from Trinidad. Da, 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 da. When I get to Middlebury, everyone's like, I think you're just Black. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
That's not enough for me to go on. Like, where's the spectrum? Like, what's going on here, right? And so, the majority of folks were, I don't know, what the percentages must have been really low. I don't remember them. I think it's under 10% people of color, for sure. But everyone was like, I'm from just outside of Boston. Many folks were living on the higher threshold of they were well privileged and cared for economically. And I think that was the piece that often made me feel like I was out of place, but also I started to so it's a feeling, right? It's really just a feeling that I can describe. I can't tell you that someone overtly came up to me and said mean things, right?
Yes.
But it was the feeling of me not settled, right? And it was reflected in what we would call culture shock, right? Or this idea that you're like, this is a space I've never inhabited before. It was oh gosh, I lost my train of thought.
It was a feeling where it wasn't outward, but.
Right. So, and later, I think what I discovered by reading a book called Whistling Vivaldi, by Claude Steele, was this idea called stereotyping, right? So it wasn't that, it was just me inhabiting, which also I think was recognized by other authors as well, this sort of double consciousness, right? And so what it means to navigate as a person of color, living in double consciousness, there's a mask of some sorts. There's a way in which, you're portraying a certain persona in order to be liked, in order to present respectability politics comes into there.
Yep.
And so there's all these ways in which I think the Black experience sort of illuminates this living in this sort of double consciousness, which is also taxing, right?
Yes.
Because you're spending a lot of time in your head trying to debunk all of the stereotypes that you imagine people have of you.
Ooh. Yeah. Wow. Yes, absolutely. And for those who would say, I don't do that, they call it code switching, or this is my professional voice. And I can see both sides in terms of, I like to cuss, but that doesn't mean I just come out and just start cussing. If I'm in the grocery store, what up? I don't do that. But if I'm feeling comfortable and fun and a word might slip out, it really, there's so much to unpack just with that you just said. It's huge.
Yeah, it took me, 5 years to therapy and reading and deconstructing my whole entire college experience.
Yes.
to be like, oh, I was sleeping 14 hours a day because I was fucking tired of trying to prove to myself that I belonged in the place that I was.
Woo!
Oh,
What
I
else,
get
Kelly?
it.
Yes. Body chills. What else did you do?
Yeah, I mean, my first semester, I was brought up on like, I think it was what do you call it? Plagiarism charges. And I was like,
Oh,
what's happening here? And like, of course the case didn't move forward, but like imagine your first semester in college and someone's like, no, you forgot. And oh, I remember this so good, Crystal, because I put the reference in the bibliography, but I forgot an in-text reference. And I was
gotcha.
like, you can't be serious. You can't be serious. Maybe I didn't know how to do APA that day, but
Yo, APA, like, oh, keep going. Yes, I feel you. I hated
no,
that.
so I mean, and then there was like, you're in the cafeteria. I don't know, someone wrote like, why do all the Black kids sit together? Right? Like,
Come
was that
on.
yeah, so like I mean, we were experiencing this thing where like you go into the, going into the cafeteria. I'm in the middle of nowhere, right? So the only place I could go and everyone else will be there is this cafeteria. There's not like, oh, we went to go grab lunch at the spot on the corner. That doesn't exist
Yes.
in Vermont. You're not going to see other people other than your classmates.
Yeah.
It's a whole experience onto itself, right? And so let's fast forward, right? And out of college I am, and I went into corporate America being like, let's do it. Like, this is what I said I would do. But I also was like, a lot of the classmates I went to school with went into finance because we were a feeder for Goldman and Lehman Brothers, right? And I was like, I'm not doing this. I can't live in this hegemonic culture and be me, right? Like, and so that's going to hinder my performance at work. And that was like a really good insight because it took me another 5 years to be like, it's okay that you don't want to do this thing that everyone else is doing. Yeah.
That is the realest thing ever. Because you keep sharing instances of just your internal awareness. What is true for Kelly? What is true for you to feel yourself? And over time, I'll speak for myself. It gets to a point of, is this the same play happening with different characters? Me entering a space of, I know there's going to be pushback. I know that people aren't going to want to listen to me, especially when I started that chief technologist position in 2017. I would be managing people that I worked with as a tech. We were side by side. I'm younger than them. I'm Black. I'm a woman. All of those things that you could see about me and make your assumptions or stereotype or whatever. So I was well aware of it. My reasonings for taking that position was to advance my career, to make more money, but ultimately to implement my ideas into bettering the departments. Because I worked in the department, so I saw where the areas that we could improve upon with the resources that I was more than willing to provide and give. I didn't think my supervisor was like on the opposite spectrum of that, of penny holding, making excuses, sometimes even fabricating the truth, and me being like, what is happening? I thought we're all here to help. I thought we're all here as a team. And I shut down. Like you say, you were going to sleep and whatnot. I used to have a jar of candy on my desk because when I taught at the school, I had a candy jar. I call it the pickle jar. It was this big, massive mason jar that people just can come in, grab something to eat, and they want to chat with me really quick. Cool. Slowly, Kelly, I started closing my door, even to the point I got to where I would lock it. Close myself off so much, like physically, after the emotional shut off was like, no, nope, not doing it. I don't care anymore. I'm tired. I'm done. I keep getting basically blamed for if I go to my supervisor about an instance, I'm in trouble. Wait, I'm the super. How am I in trouble when they came in late? What are we talking about here? Like, But the
Wow.
awareness is, how do I feel? Felt like shit. I felt like I wasn't heard. I wasn't seen. I was dismissed. I felt like my perspective did not matter. It was not valuable. And that goes for work, but that also goes for family. That goes for personal relationships. They're all intertwined where if I leave this job, because my go-to was like, I'll just quit and find another job. How many of us have done that? Peace out. I'll start my business. How about that? But yet the situation still presented itself the same of me not showing up fully because I remember what happened last time. I remember how excited I was to start that position. And then I kind of sank and deteriorated as time went on because I started doubting myself. It's always going to come back to us. Kelly, I don't know your internal desires and wants and goals and dreams. Only you know that. And I'm sure day by day, they become more prevalent or robust, colorful. But only you know that. So I constantly try to remind myself of, just like you were doing, books, therapy, music, dancing, making sure I'm feeding that part of me that provides me pleasure and reassures me like your ideas are original, your ideas are yours, and everybody's not going to get it, but how do you feel when you have them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Said a lot. I hope that made sense.
No, it does make sense. I mean, I think it's just the closing the door metaphor that you used it works for all parts of us, right? You
Yeah.
close off your physical, then you close off your emotional, then you close off, you know,
Opportunities.
psychologically, opportunities. Like you start when you close the door, the proverbial door or the real one, right?
Yes.
Because you were in your office closing the door and
Yes.
then locking it.
Yes.
Right? Because you're like, I don't want no surprises. I
Yes.
can't handle that.
Kelly, yes. Yes, that is, thank you for those words. That's exactly what happened. I was tired of being activated, like, what you need now? What you need now? It was too much.
Mhm.
Wow.
And so
thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you live this, so
Yeah.
you growing out of it is all you. I'm just gonna celebrate you.
I appreciate it.
Forward with that. Yeah.
Me too.
But yeah, and I think that's where psychological safety, like that's where it stops, right? So you're like, we're an open book, let's go. I'm so into this. And then when one circumstance, one situation happens that leaves you feeling depleted, and then another situation happens that leaves you feeling depleted, you continuously start to feel depleted until you're not able to engage fully anymore, right? And then you lock the door and you're like, I don't want to know anymore, and I don't want to engage anymore because I'm not valued. My opinions are not taken seriously, right?
Yeah.
And these are professional opinions, right? So it's not like I just decided one day that you should do this. You're a professional and you're coming in with an opinion that's based in evidence that you've seen.
Yes.
So, all of those things, all of those things. But yeah, you want to jump to this article?
Yes, I was just about to say that. So, what was your takeaway with the article?
So I guess I'm pretty sure, I hope I sent you the right article. So there was one that was talking about Brene Brown, and I love your dare to lead back there because I know it's everything that you are. And the reasons why I decided to write you on this, because I was like, he's gonna have a great response to all of my questioning, curious interrogation into Brene Brown and her, her politics, her ideas, all valid, all research backed, amazing. But really what I came into was with the article was me checking how I feel about this one more time, right? Because I discovered Brene Brown back in 2020, I believe, or 2021. And I was like skeptical. I was like, okay, she's a white woman. It seems like she has a lot of clout, a lot of platform. How do I trust her, right? And I think this is what I do to all academics, frankly. Anyway, that's just what I do. So I'm like, how do I trust you and what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I follow you, I listen to some podcasts. I'm like, I see you have some really great people on, on your podcast, Barack Obama. She also engaged in great conversation with Aiko Bethia, who is also a coach and consultant focused in equity. So these are people obviously I admire. And so I was like, okay, these conversations were great. Really breaking down what it means to be vulnerable, why it's important, and all of these things. And then I was just like, okay. I was like, I like it. And then she did an interview with Tarana Burke, and I'm like, okay, she's amplifying Black voices, Black experiences. This matters to me. Okay. And then I was like, okay, well, if Tarana trusts Brene, okay, I think I can trust Brene. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, I'll think about all the ways in which folks identify people and what, the sound bites of like famous people, right? And so I remember reading like the Memo by Minda as, what do you call it? It's like is it a polemic or like basically a counter to Sheryl Sandsburg, right? Who wrote Lean In, right?
I
So
have
I'm
not read any of these books. So
Oh,
this is
okay.
amazing.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I think this is good. Like, this is
Yeah,
helpful.
so basically I'm trying to share a little bit about how I start to like, synthesize information, right? So I'll be like, okay, Sheryl Sandsburg, who's was the head of Facebook or something, or Facebook leader somewhere in the leadership team, wrote Lean In, right? Which was dear all women, like you have to step up and lean in, be assertive. It's not bitchy, it's assertive. Like you got to get in there and just do it, go for it. Looking at patriarchy and being like, forget that.
Yeah.
We're here to lead. We're here. And I was like, okay, great, Sheryl. That's wonderful. And then Minda Harts goes, Sheryl, did you think about Black people doing this? Because I don't know if it's gonna work the same. I mean, it sounds nice when you say it, and it's great for white women. And it seems like, all the Beckys can just walk through the door and do like a little dance and it's okay and no one says anything. But if we have these ideas of pet to threat, right? Which is this idea that like they'll take me under their wing and I'm great until I'm challenged the status quo. Then I'm not the Black girl that you like anymore, right? I'm not just diversifying, I'm challenging.
You're not a team player. I've heard this before, and I heard that phrase pet to threat earlier this year when stumbled upon a article about imposter syndrome. So you can go back and listen to the episode because I break that down with another coach as well. And I was like, oh, that's what happens. Yes. I am familiar with that. I know where, yes, you're my mentee. And just like the corporate situation, I looked at her as a mentor. We talked, we text outside of work and stuff like that. So when the position became open and she was like, I thought you were going to apply for it. I applied, I got it. Her word was bond. What do we need to do? I got you. We're a team. We're in this together. But then my curiosity was like, wait, why are we doing this? Because that is me. That is innately Crystal. Curiosity. And what is the purpose of what we're doing? I have never been one to just do stuff just to do it. What is the purpose? And if you can't tell me, maybe I can figure it out. And that kept occurring where I wanted training. She was like, I didn't really get training. You don't really need training. We don't have time for training. I'm like, well, that's stupid. I'm going to train anyways. So things like that. And to add on to what you were saying, Kelly, I think it's normal that people hear information. It's like, ooh, can I trust it? Do I like it? And you walking through your process of it, what is your barometer of to trust or not to trust? What do you use?
That's a good question. So in the case of, sort of doing an analysis with like Brene Brown and other authors, sort of lifting her and her lifting them, you know, I guess I came into a space of trust with Brene when I listened to the podcast episode where she was interviewing Tarana Burke, and Tarana said out of her mouth, you know, I asked Brene to do this book with me. Right. And so when I first saw the book, I was like, wait, Brene Brown, Black Voices, confused, right? And then then listening and being like, oh, okay, Tarana asked for this. And so it's really, I guess it's like, it's just such a good question. It might change. Like,
Absolutely.
I think,
Absolutely.
like I said, in that moment, I was like, okay, do I trust this person? Right. And maybe I've just been skeptical because, I mean, look, we went through 2020, right? You were there, I was there. We started thinking about how we're lifting up different folks in different spaces. And we're looking at the Black experience and seeing on TV, right? The institutional racism, all the different facets of racism and how it really infuses itself unbeknownst to us. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Unbeknownst to us, I lived through a period of being like, I don't even know if I like this body because this body could incur, there's danger because of who I look like and what I look like, without even opening my mouth. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was a fearful period for me. In 2020, I'm like looking over my shoulder whenever I leave New York City. I'm like, I don't know, right? So there's just a lot of conversation about how we're being careful now, right? To really put in front and center, like, what does it mean to live the Black experience? And are we creating a world that's different than the one we inhabit, right?
Yeah.
So to your question, what's the criteria? I think I have to hear it from someone's mouth, if that makes sense. Like,
no, it does. It does. And
like to trust it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
like primary resource, like a primary source. Because research
why aren't
Why
aren't you the primary resource?
I don't know, Krista.
And this is something that all of us can speak to, because when you shared this with me, I've had issues of idealizing different people. And if something was brought out that they did something racist or just unfathomable, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And I feel some type of shame. I do the shit. Why do I feel that? Because I've taken on who they are and their identity as a part of me, instead of just appreciating we have similarities. We see the world this way, or we have differencing a perspective or appearance of the world. But I enjoy the conversation, or enjoy the insight, because I would not have seen it that way. Like the way I'm made up, I only see things this way or that way. But thank you for sharing that perspective. It doesn't make me feel good, but I can see where they're coming from. And both can be true at the same time. I'll give you an example. In 2020, when Ahmaud Arbery was killed, my husband had just started running in the neighborhood, like maybe a week or two before then. And just hearing the story, I'm like, I don't understand how anybody can do that. It's not your house. You just like, what are we talking about? What the fuck? Like, it scared me for him to continue to run. But I also recognize that I can have that fear, and my husband can have that fear, because he did, and still feel that power. And I'm still going to decide to run and do what it is that I want to do, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And I myself that just imagine if I'm living those days, weeks, months, fearful. Not to say there's anything wrong with you being skeptical or looking over your shoulder or wanting to protect yourself. That makes sense. But what type of life is that? And everyone gets to make that decision. So even if we bring it back to the article of Brene highlighting Black voices and whatnot. I don't know when I was first introduced to Brene Brown, but I would say it's only been a couple of years. And I was so kind of connected by the information she shared. Like, what is that? What does that mean? Vulnerability. That's what I've been saying. Yes, okay. Because I learned through vulnerability comes so much power and clarity. I get to show up myself, but you might not like that. Your ego or whatever that voice is, your inner critic might say, she's too bubbly. I don't like her. She seems fake. That's you. That's on you.
Mm-hmm.
And me still choosing to choose me and be myself, that's what I'm going to do. And I don't do it all the time. But now with just my experience over time, there's so much power in it. Like, it's so powerful. So pose that question to everyone. Why can't you be the primary source? Experiencing things, acknowledging that you cannot control the other person that you're experiencing this with. They have their own inner critic, demons, conversations, thoughts, perspectives, beliefs, assumptions, all of that just wrapped up in that human body. But you do too. How does it feel to you? And I've gone into rooms and kind of been silent, kind of muted myself to try to quote unquote feel it out, only to leave like, I should have said something. They don't even know who I am now. So of course they're not going to want to link up with me or work with me or collaborate with me. Wasn't me. What's coming up?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know. I was just listening to the story that you told with your husband, and I was just like, that is the choice you have to make, right? Because God, there's so many things going on in this world, but I still want to do what drives me. Because then because then now, because something's happened, I have to lose the privilege of living freely or able to do the things that I want to do, right? So like, if I take it, if I believe like, oh, okay, I can't go into certain rooms, but how do you, like, if you already,
I know
cut
exactly.
yourself off from going into the room, then you never will know what would have happened if you went into the room. Right. And so like back to what you said, like our presence, our true presence is so powerful, right? It's far beyond anything we can imagine. I mean, like we did this program.
Yes.
It's just we know that level 7 energy is just like you don't even know. I manifest as I walk.
Yes. Not saying a word, not saying anything.
And I have like, yeah, right there, right? And to believe fully in that is a gift. Personally, as a coach, like I think one of the things that I'm most excited to do every time I get in the room with a client is being able to like experience their potential opportunities. They'll like reveal as we move through this, like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I will do this. I am doing this, right?
And that is always something that you would not have expected. Like you anticipate, like you said, being in that room of that creation of them having the ability to be like, I can do this. There's nothing like it. It's so powerful. We could talk about this all day.
We can.
And I think we should definitely have another conversation in the future. Before we jump off, how do you want people to reach out to you, to connect with you, to link with you, and possibly continue the discussion?
Yeah. I'd love to continue talking to you, Crystal. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome.
And feel free to reach out to me. I'm LinkedIn. It's one of my preferred spaces. Kelly George on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. And also email. I'm building my Instagram on that real_resilience_. So
I gotta follow you.
check me out there.
We don't follow each other on Instagram, do we?
I don't know, but we follow each other everywhere else, clearly.
I know, right? You said it's real_.
_resilience_.
There you go.
And so, yeah, hopefully I'll be dropping some more tidbits on, how to stay well, be well, and move through the world in all of your power and glory.
Yes. And Kelly, you're doing it now. Like you're creating that. And you're so well versed in books, clearly, way more than I am. And that is valuable. It's valuable. Like you have so many different insights. Go ahead.
I went into reading these books because I needed to understand, right? It's not like I went into reading these books because I didn't read these books in college,
Yeah.
right? When I see a Black woman bursting out and taking on workplace wellness like Minda Harts, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna read this because I felt some type of way in my corporate spheres where I couldn't be my full self, and I want to know how to not live in that space, right? And so, yeah, and I mean, I want to hear more, I'm sure, about your relationship with Dare to Lead at another point.
Well, I'll quickly, again, I
Yes.
don't remember how I was introduced, but I read that after I left my corporate job in 2019. And Kelly, as I'm reading it, I was like, I needed this back then because the information she gave was just, it made so much sense of how we speak to our employees. What are our values? That was huge for me. And that's when I got the aha. I was like, oh, their values did not align with my values. I was so into being collaborative. I love learning and training. And literally, I started that position, Kelly. HR emailed me, was like, hey, we have a new leadership training that is 2 days, I think. It was in Williamsburg, which is like 45 minutes from where I'm at. I send the request to my boss and her boss, and she tells me, I don't know if we have time for you to go. Ma'am, I just started this position. What? Like, that's just a little bit of it. And that's why I was like, oh, yeah. This is why I'm feeling and experiencing these things because I'm fighting. I'm fighting to change them. And in the midst of that, I'm changing myself. No one's winning. No one's winning.
That. Fighting to change them and in the midst changing yourself. And which one, and the part that hurts the most is you changing
I
you
did that.
to
I did
adjust
that.
or
Woo!
shift or try to. Girl, I'm so glad
On
you're
that
here.
note, and we ran out of time, but I appreciate you, Kelly. We will do this again.
Yeah.
This is so much fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you. Kelly, that convo was everything. I mean, we talked about psychological safety, healing, therapy, emotional intelligence, awareness, the books, all the books you graciously shared with us. Thank you, Kelly, for being you. Your knowledge literally flooded the room, and your laugh is pure joy. Peeps, if you have a free hand, hit up Kelly on LinkedIn. It is Kelly George, Kelly, and then George. If you follow me, then you can find Kelly, she, Aya. Also, not in LinkedIn land, cool. Follow Kelly on IG at real_resilience_. Real is REAL _ and then RESILIENCE _ Thank you so much, Kelly. I had a ball. And I know the peeps are gonna love this conversation. Switching gears, peeps, this is the weekend. If you are in the Richmond area and you've been looking to hang with me in real life and meet a bunch of other ladies who share similar vibes of openness, community, fun, growth, having dope conversations, laughing about dope things, and just discussing about life, just lifing, then please sign up now for our first pop-up event hosted by Loving Me Through community with my friends Sierra and Elise. There's no charge. All we ask is that you come with your dope vibes, your dress in your favorite color, and you bring snacks in that same color. For example, if you're wearing all purple, then maybe you'll bring purple grapes. Maybe you'll bring plums. Maybe you'll bring a bunch of other purple snacks. It is our rainbow picnic, September the 17th, and it's from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now, when you register with the link that's in the show notes, you will receive the email of where specifically we're meeting up. It will be at Maymont Park in Richmond, Virginia, and we plan to have many, many other outings, so if you can't make this one, no worries. We're cooking up something for the month of November. Until next week, peeps, trust the process. Trust it. I pinky promise it's worth it in the end. Bye.